In this video, we will explore some of the interesting places of Muswell Hill, including Charles Darwin's friend's house, the first electronic telephone exchange, prolific serial killer Dennis Nilsen's house, Highgate Woods, Queen's Woods and the Plague Pit, Hitler's sister-in-law's house, plus more. Muswell Hill, known as Muswell Hill until the 1950s. The earliest records of Muswell Hill dates from the 12th century. The name Muswell Hill comes from the name of a natural spring or well, the Mossy well, said to have miraculous properties. The area became a place of pilgrimage for healing during medieval times. Until the end of the 19th century, Muswell Hill remained a rural area of pasture, woods and open spaces. The old name for Muswell Hill, before year 1561 was Pinescnel and Pinesnet. Starting from the bottom of the hill, walking up. The Moravian Church House, 1957. Muswell Hill is a suburban district of the borough of Haringey, North London. The hill reaches 100 metre, or 330 feet, above sea level, and is 9 kilometres, or 5.5 miles, from Charing Cross. This is one of a series of videos, exploring some details that most residents of Muswell Hill, Highgate and Crouch End, North London, might not know, or have only heard of. Please subscribe to the channel, for more videos, including one posted previously about Alexandra Palace. Grove Lodge Gardens. Muswell Hill and Fortis Green Association restored this previously forgotten garden, leading up to Grove Lodge. It is a tree-lined path, which was until recently overgrown and forgotten. Grove Lodge has had many residents over the years. In recent times the Red Cross was there, thereafter it was bought by Haringey Council and used as a children's home. In the early 1990s it was converted into small flats. According to Hornsey Historical Society, Grove Lodge was once owned by Sir George Downing, the man who built Downing Street, the British Prime Minister's residence. Across from Grove Lodge is St James's Lane. One of Charles Darwin's friends of authority lived here. Charles Darwin, the 19th century naturalist who wrote The Origin of Species in 1859, rocked the world and beliefs of the Victorian establishment. It is therefore surprising to learn that Darwin rated William Bernhard Tegetmeier an authority on several species of birds and bees, and they corresponded for many years. This White House, on St James's Lane, was called the Bee House, as while living here, Tegetmeier were studying and breeding bees. In year 1855, Tegetmeier was introduced to Charles Darwin, whom he supplied many bird skulls and skeletons and for whom he carried out many experiments in breeding. Darwin acknowledged this help in the 160 letters to Tegetmeier, and they corresponded until year 1881. William Tegetmeier's experiments while living in Muswell Hill were described by Charles Darwin in his The Origin of Species. After living in this house for 10 years, William Tegetmeier moved to another house on the same road, which was later demolished to make room for the railway arches, when Alexandra Palace was built. From there, he moved to Coldfall Lodge, in nearby Fortis Green Road, just up the road. He wrote 32 books about birds, and lived until he was 96. To the right, there was a public house at 56 Muswell Hill, called the Green Man. This pub dates back till at least year 1552, most likely even before, when an ale house at Muswell Hill, next to Herringsea, is listed in the Middlesex Justice's Keeper's Recognizances. The Green Man was known as the Hill, at the time of closure. To the left, is now a Wetherspoon pub, called the Mossy Well. It was previously a bar and restaurant, called the Village. Since year 1900, it had been a milk depot, called Express Dairy. It closed in the 1980s. The milk depot's name, Express Dairy, was used to symbolize the owner's pioneering ways to transport milk, via express trains. Muswell Hill has had many pioneering projects over the years, as we will see in some of these videos. This beautiful church was built in year 1897 and completed in 1903. It was designed by George and Reginald Baines, and was to become a Presbyterian church, at the cost of max £7,000. The design had to stand out, and make an impact, at the corner of the prestigious Princes Avenue, with a view over London from the church front porch. By the time of completion in 1903, the cost had gone up to £12,000. By 1975, they had ceased using the church, and transferred the congregation to the Tegetmeier church nearby, which had better facilities. There were several threats of demolition since then, but luckily the building has been saved. From year 1985 to 1992, the council was using the building as offices. In year 1995 it became a pub, and now it is a restaurant, a steakhouse. Highgate Wood Telephone Exchange, in Grand Avenue, Muswell Hill. Built in 1962, after years of pioneering research, this was the very first all-electronic telephone exchange in Britain, and one of the first in the world. The Muswell Hill murderer, Dennis Andrew Nilsen, convicted at the Old Bailey in London, of 6 counts of murder, and of 2 attempted murders. Nilsen was sentenced to life imprisonment, on the 4th of November, 1983. Dennis was a Scottish serial killer and necrophile, who murdered at least 12 young men and boys, between the years 1978 and 1983. All of his murders were committed at his 2 North London addresses. His victims would be lured to these addresses, through deception, and killed by strangulation, or sometimes drowning. He then retained the bodies for some time, before dissecting and disposing of the remains by burning them on a bonfire or flushing them down the toilet. Apparently as a teen, he had sexually assaulted both his younger sister and his older brother. In 1973 he became a police officer. He later became a civil servant. At the time of his arrest, he was posted as an executive at Kentish Town Job Centre in North London. At Cranley Gardens, Muswell Hill, he would boil his victims' heads, hands and feet, to remove the flesh. The murders were discovered after the drains to the property was blocked. Human remains were found stuck in the drains, and he replied to this: "It looks to me like someone has been flushing down their Kentucky Fried Chicken." He was taken to nearby Hornsey police station, where he was asked, was it 1 or 2 bodies? He said, 15 or 16. The police then proceeded to search his property thoroughly. Onslow Gardens ahead. One of the first roads in the area to be developed. It is known that Dennis drank at the nearby pub, the famous Royal Oak, in St. James's Lane. Barmaids who served him have spoken about this, but it is not known if he lured any of his victims from there. And interestingly, one of Dennis' neighbors in the same house worked as a barmaid at that pub at the time of the murders. Welcome to Queen's Wood, or Churchyard Bottom Wood, as it was called, the spookiest of the parks in the area. An ancient woodland, home to over 100 species of spiders. There is a plague pit in this park. Two separate historical written records are confirming this plague pit. There are 13 large oak trees in a circle. Bones were found. This confirms its existence. We are walking towards the location. Since many years, pagan worshippers have come here, some to do witchcraft. Even from the 1960s a group of people would meet at a nearby public house, called the Woodman pub, which we will see later. They would then come for pagan worship at this plague pit. Now you can see the pit, right ahead. This is the spot. At the time of the plague, the park was much bigger, and the real location of the bones they found was actually right next to the boundaries of the current layout of the park, under what is now a builder's depot. You can see it in the background. This doesn't necessarily mean there are no bones under the spot in the park, they just haven't found any, yet. On the way to the Woodman pub, we can see Peter Seller's house. He lived here for a few years while young. And this is the Woodman pub. It has been here since year 1810. This is where pagan worshippers met up for years, to go down to the Churchyard Bottom Park, Queenswood Park. We are now heading to one of the roads, right next to the park, to see where Hitler's sister-in-law lived. Hitler's older brother, Alois, met his future wife, Bridget, claiming to be a European businessman. In reality, he was just a kitchen porter. They had split up before Bridget moved to this house we're going to see. Alois Hitler moved to Germany and faked his own death. He later wanted to remarry, and Bridget helped him getting a divorce, to save him from going to prison. Bridget had accumulated rent arrears, £9, so she was running the house as a boarding house for a while. Please like and subscribe. In the next video, we will see the real location of the Mossy Well. What does Muswell Hill have in common with South Africa's Nelson Mandela, the ANC and Oliver Tambo, a secret nuclear bunker, and some other things? Thanks for watching.